History is usually remembered through wars, kings, and revolutions, through dates carved into stone and names etched into textbooks. Yet some of its most audacious and revealing moments unfolded in silence, far from battlefields and thrones. They happened at night, behind locked doors, beneath vaulted ceilings where humanity stored its greatest achievements. These moments were not marked by bloodshed, but by absence, by empty walls, missing frames, and a realization that something priceless had vanished without a sound. These are the true stories behind history's most daring art heists, not legends or myths, but carefully executed events that exposed how fragile even the most protected treasures truly are. Art has always meant more than beauty. It represents power, identity, culture, and memory. To steal art is not merely to take an object of value. It is to steal history itself. Every major art heist begins long before the crime, not with breaking glass or disabling alarms, but with observation. The thieves watch. They learn. They memorize routines, guard shifts, lighting patterns, and human habits. They understand that museums do not fail because of technology, but because of trust. And trust, when repeated daily, becomes predictable. On an ordinary August morning in 1911, visitors entered the Louvre Museum in Paris, expecting to see Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa. Instead, they found an empty space on the wall. At first, no one panicked. Museum staff assumed the painting had been taken down for photography or maintenance. Hours passed before confusion turned into alarm. By the time the truth became undeniable, the most famous painting in the world had disappeared. The theft was shockingly simple. The man responsible was Vincenzo Peruggia, an Italian handyman who had once worked at the Louvre. He knew the building intimately. On a Monday morning, when the museum was closed to the public, he entered wearing a white worker's smock identical to those worn by museum staff. No one questioned him. He removed the painting from the wall, carried it to a stairwell, slipped it out of its heavy frame, hid it beneath his coat, and walked out through the same doors used by employees every day. No alarms sounded. No guards stopped him. The crime succeeded because he looked like he belonged there. For 2 years, the Mona Lisa remained hidden in Peruggia's small Paris apartment. When he finally attempted to sell it in Italy, he was arrested. The irony was profound. Before the theft, the Mona Lisa was admired. After the theft, it became legendary. Its disappearance transformed it into the most famous painting in human history, proving that absence can be more powerful than presence. The lesson was clear. Though few institutions fully learned it, familiarity is dangerous. When people believe they know what normal looks like, they stop questioning it. This vulnerability would echo through countless heists that followed. In 1907, in Dublin Castle, symbols of imperial authority rested behind locked doors, the Irish crown jewels. They were heavily guarded, carefully stored, and considered untouchable. One morning, they were simply gone. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken locks, no witnesses. The keys had been stored carelessly. Access had been taken for granted, and trust had replaced vigilance. Investigations followed, but no one was conclusively convicted. The jewels were never recovered. Their disappearance was more than a theft. It was an embarrassment for the British Empire, and a symbolic wound during a time of rising political tension in Ireland. The crime demonstrated that art and regalia are never just objects. They are representations of authority. When they vanish, power itself appears vulnerable. No discussion of art theft can ignore the vast, systematic plunder carried out during World War II. This was not the work of lone thieves or criminal gangs, but of a state operating with bureaucratic efficiency. The Nazi regime looted hundreds of thousands of artworks across Europe, targeting Jewish collectors, museums, and cultural institutions. Specialized units cataloged collections with chilling precision. Laws were rewritten to legalize confiscation. Paintings, sculptures, manuscripts, and religious artifacts were seized not only for profit, but to erase identities and rewrite cultural history. Some artworks were destined for Hitler's planned museum, meant to showcase a distorted vision of civilization. Others were sold to fund the war effort. As Allied forces advanced, stolen art was hidden in salt mines, castles, and underground vaults. Some pieces were destroyed to prevent their recovery. After the war, Allied teams known as the Monuments Men raced against time to recover what they could, following paper trails and interrogating officials. Thousands of works were saved, but countless others vanished forever, swallowed by chaos, greed, and fear. Decades later, in 1990, one of the most infamous art heists in history unfolded in Boston. In the early hours of March 18th, two men dressed as police officers knocked on the door of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. They claimed there had been a disturbance. The guards, following protocol and trusting the authority represented by the uniforms, allowed them inside. Within minutes, the guards were restrained. Over the next 81 minutes, the thieves moved calmly through the museum. They did not rush. They did not trigger alarms. They selected 13 specific artworks, including masterpieces by Rembrandt and Vermeer, worth over $500 million. They ignored other valuable pieces, suggesting detailed knowledge and careful planning. When the guards were finally discovered, the thieves were long gone. The stolen artworks have never been recovered. To this day, the empty frames remain hanging on the museum walls, silent reminders of what was lost. The heist succeeded not because of advanced technology, but because of confidence. Authority, calmly presented, disarmed suspicion completely. In Paris, years later, another theft demonstrated how timing and awareness could overcome even modern security. Late one night, alarms across the city malfunctioned. At the Museum of Modern Art, a masked figure climbed the building's exterior, smashed a window, and removed a painting from its frame. In a matter of minutes, 5 masterpieces were gone, including works by Picasso and Matisse. Though the thief was eventually identified, the artworks were reportedly destroyed in panic. A grim reminder that stolen art often becomes a burden rather than a reward. This raises a question that haunts every art heist. Why steal what cannot be openly sold? Famous artworks are impossible to place on legitimate markets. Their value depends on recognition. Yet, this is precisely why they are stolen. In the criminal underworld, art becomes currency. It is used as collateral, traded in secret deals, leveraged for reduced sentences, or kept as trophies of power. Some pieces are hidden for decades, waiting for a moment that may never come. Others are lost forever, destroyed by fear or carelessness. The psychology behind these crimes reveals a consistent pattern. Art thieves are rarely impulsive. They are patient observers. They understand routine and exploit predictability. They know that institutions grow complacent, that alarms malfunction, and that people assume certain things simply cannot happen. They do not overpower systems. They slip through them unnoticed. Modern museums now employ biometric scanners, motion sensors, and artificial intelligence, yet art theft continues. Technology evolves, but human behavior does not. Complacency, assumption, and trust remain the greatest weaknesses. Every great heist proves that the most secure vaults can be defeated by the simplest deceptions. There is a final, unsettling paradox at the heart of art theft. Stealing a masterpiece often increases its fame. Mystery elevates value. Absence creates legend. An empty frame becomes more powerful than the painting it once held. The theft transforms the artwork into a story, and stories endure longer than objects. Art heists are not footnotes in history. They are silent turning points that expose the fragility of power, the limits of security, and the enduring flaws of human systems. They remind us that civilization's greatest achievements are never as safe as we believe, because in the end, history is not only shaped by those who create masterpieces, but also by those bold enough to steal them, quietly, patiently, and without a trace.